Hi, I'm Madison. I'm the founder of a seven-figure marketing company here in Austin, Texas. But 12 years ago, I was just a 16-year-old kid getting thrown out onto the street because of one lie that changed everything. Picture this. It's a cold November evening, and I'm standing on my front porch watching my mom literally throw my backpack and clothes out the door. The last thing she screamed at me before slamming that door was, "Don't you ever come back." Fast forward to last Tuesday. I'm in my penthouse office, closing a deal with a Fortune 500 client, when my phone starts buzzing. The caller ID makes my blood run cold. Mom calling. After 12 years of complete silence, suddenly she wants to talk. The timing is pretty interesting, considering my company just got featured on Forbes 30 Under 30 last month. But let me ask you something. Have you ever been abandoned by your own family because of someone else's lie? Because that's exactly what happened to me, and the truth didn't come out until it was way too late. It all started with $500 and my older brother Jake's gambling problem that nobody wanted to acknowledge. Jake was 19 at the time, the golden child who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. Me? I was the difficult one, apparently. The one who asked too many questions and didn't just go along with whatever Jake said. That November night, Dad came home from work and immediately noticed his wallet felt lighter. He always kept exactly $500 in cash. His emergency fund, he called it. When he checked, the money was gone. "Where's my $500? Dad's voice echoed through our two-story house in suburban Dallas. Mom was in the kitchen making dinner, and Jake was supposedly studying upstairs. I was doing homework at the dining room table. "I don't know, Dad. Maybe you moved it somewhere else?" I suggested, genuinely trying to help. That's when Jake came down the stairs with this look on his face. You know, that fake concerned expression that narcissists perfect over time. "Dad, what's wrong?" "Someone took $500 from my wallet." Jake's eyes immediately darted to me. "Madison was asking me about money earlier today. She said she needed cash for something." My stomach dropped. "What?" "No, I wasn't. Jake, what are you talking about?" But Dad was already walking toward me with that look, the look that said he'd already made up his mind about who was guilty. "Madison, empty your backpack. Now." "Dad, I didn't take anything. Why would I—" "Empty it." My hands were shaking as I unzipped my school bag. Books, notebooks, pens, my calculator. Nothing unusual. Then Dad grabbed my purse. Inside my wallet, in the zippered compartment where I kept my babysitting money, were 5 crisp $100 bills. "I have never seen this money before in my life," I said, my voice cracking. "Someone put this here. Jake, tell them the truth." But Jake just stood there shaking his head sadly, like he was disappointed in me. "Madison, just admit what you did. Maybe Dad will go easier on you." "I didn't do anything!" I screamed, but it was too late. Mom had joined the circle of accusers, and that look of disgust on her face is something I'll never forget. "How could you steal from your own father?" she whispered. For the next 2 hours, they tag-teamed me. Every time I tried to explain that someone must have planted the money, they'd shoot back with, "We raised you better than this. You've always had behavioral problems. Jake would never lie to us. Maybe this is why you've been so moody lately. We've given you everything and this is how you repay us." They kept saying I was being dramatic, that I was making up stories to avoid consequences. Classic gaslighting, though I didn't know that term back then. They made me feel like I was going crazy, like maybe I really had stolen the money and somehow blocked it out of my memory. The worst part was watching Jake during all of this. He'd nod sympathetically when our parents spoke, occasionally adding little comments like, "I just want to help Madison get better," or "Maybe she's been hanging out with the wrong crowd at school." By 9 p.m., Dad had made his decision. "Pack your things. You can't stay in this house anymore." "Dad, please, I'm 16 years old. Where am I supposed to go?" "You should have thought about that before you became a thief." Mom was crying, but not for me. She was crying for herself, for the embarrassment of having a daughter who would steal from family. "We can't trust you anymore, Madison. You'll just take more money if we let you stay." "Please, just give me a chance to prove—" You had your chance to tell the truth, and you chose to lie instead. That's when the bags started flying out the front door. My clothes, my books, my childhood stuffed animals, everything that mattered to me landing in a heap on the porch. Neighbors were peeking out their windows, watching the spectacle of the Rodriguez family's dirty laundry being aired for the whole street to see. The final humiliation came when Mom grabbed my arm and physically pushed me toward the door. "You're not our daughter anymore." I'll never forget standing there in the cold, looking back at the house where I'd grown up, watching every light turn off one by one until the whole place was dark, like they were erasing me from their lives in real time. I spent that first night in my car, a beat-up Honda Civic I'd bought with babysitting money. The irony wasn't lost on me that the only reason I had that car was because I'd been saving every penny I earned while Jake spent money as fast as he could get his hands on it. The next few weeks were a blur of couch surfing at friends' houses and sleeping in my car when I couldn't find anywhere else to go. My best friend Sarah's mom let me stay with them for a few days, but I could tell it was awkward. What do you say to a 16-year-old who got kicked out for stealing? Most people didn't know the whole story, and honestly, I was too ashamed to tell them. The worst part was that my parents didn't just cut me off, they actively turned other family members against me. When I called my Aunt Lisa, she said Mom had already told her about my problems and that maybe some tough love was what I needed. My grandparents on Dad's side got the same story. Madison had become a thief and needed to learn consequences. They even canceled my phone plan, closed the college savings account they'd started for me, and told my school counselor that I was going through a rebellious phase and making up stories for attention. Meanwhile, Jake got to stay in his comfortable bedroom, continue with his college plans, and play the role of the concerned older brother who was disappointed in his sister's choices. But here's what nobody knew at the time. Jake had a secret that would eventually destroy their perfect narrative about the golden child who never lied. 12 years later, I can see that night for what it really was. Not just a family crisis, but a complete character assassination designed to protect Jake from consequences he should have faced. They didn't just kick me out, they systematically destroyed my relationships with extended family, my reputation at school, and my sense of reality itself. And now, after 12 years of radio silence, they want to make amends? After seeing my success plastered across Forbes magazine and social media, suddenly I'm worth talking to again? The manipulation is so transparent it's almost laughable. Almost. But I haven't forgotten that scared 16-year-old girl standing on the porch with all her belongings scattered around her feet. I haven't forgotten the way they made me question my own sanity. And I definitely haven't forgotten that they never once, not even for a second, considered that maybe, just maybe, their golden boy Jake wasn't telling the truth. That silver bracelet my grandmother gave me for my 16th birthday was in that pile of belongings they threw out. It was the last gift she gave me before she passed away, and in the chaos of that night, it fell between the porch boards and was lost forever. At the time, it felt like losing the last connection I had to unconditional love. Little did I know that 12 years later, that bracelet would become the symbol of everything I'd overcome, and everything they'd never be able to take away from me again. Because while they were busy protecting their lie, I was building a life that would eventually expose the truth in ways they never saw coming. So there I was 12 years later, staring at my phone screen with Mom calling flashing across it. My hands were actually trembling as I hit the answer button. "Madison, honey, is that really you?" Mom's voice sounded exactly the same, but there was something different in her tone, something almost nervous. "Yeah, it's me." I kept my voice neutral, professional, the same tone I use with difficult clients. "Oh, sweetheart, we've missed you so much. Your father and I have been talking, and we think it's time we all got together. You know, to catch up. Catch up. Like I'd been away on some extended vacation instead of being thrown out of their lives like garbage. Catch up," I repeated slowly. "That's interesting timing, Mom, right after the Forbes article came out." There was a pause. "We're so proud of you, honey. We always knew you'd do great things." The audacity was breathtaking. "You always knew? Is that why you kicked me out at 16 and told the entire family I was a thief?" "Madison, that was so long ago. We were all going through a difficult time. Can't we just move past it? Family is family, right?" And there it was, the classic narcissist playbook. Minimize the abuse, skip the accountability, and demand forgiveness without ever admitting wrongdoing. "Where's my apology, Mom?" Another pause. "Well, we all made mistakes back then, but what matters is that we're reaching out now, right? We want to make amends. Make amends, without admitting they did anything wrong, without acknowledging the 12 years of silence, without even asking how I survived being homeless at 16. I need to think about this," I said, and hung up before she could guilt-trip me further. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something about the timing felt off. Why now? Why reach out right after my company got national attention? It wasn't like my success was a secret. I'd been building my business for 5 years, and it wasn't exactly hidden from public view. So I did what any good business owner does when something doesn't add up. I investigated. First, I checked Jake's social media. His Facebook was still public, and what I found there was illuminating. His construction business was struggling. Multiple posts about tough economic times and looking for new opportunities. His wife had recently posted about medical bills from their daughter's surgery. They were clearly having financial problems. Then I dug deeper. I started reaching out to old friends from high school, people who might still be in touch with my family. Most conversations were awkward. After all, I'd disappeared from their lives overnight 12 years ago. But slowly, pieces of information started coming together. That's when I decided to call Sarah Martinez, Jake's ex-girlfriend from high school. We'd been friends before everything went down, and she'd always seemed genuinely confused about why I'd suddenly gone off the rails senior year. "Madison, oh my God, is this really you?" Sarah's voice was warm, excited. "I've been following your company online. I can't believe how successful you've become." "Thanks, Sarah. Listen, I know this might sound weird, but I need to ask you something about Jake, about what really happened that night I got kicked out." The line went quiet for a long moment. "Sarah, you still there?" "Yeah, I'm here." "Madison, can I ask you something first? Did you really steal that money from your dad?" "No, I never did. I've been saying that for 12 years. Another pause, then, "I know you didn't." My heart stopped. "What do you mean, you know I didn't?" "Because Jake told me the truth that same week. He was drunk at a party, feeling guilty, and he confessed everything. He said he'd been gambling online, lost way more than he could afford, and panicked when your dad noticed the missing money. So he planted it in your backpack and blamed you." The room started spinning. "He what?" "Madison, I'm so sorry. I wanted to say something back then, but Jake begged me not to. He said it would destroy his college plans, and he promised he'd tell your parents the truth eventually. He said he just needed time to figure out how to pay the money back first. But he never did tell them." "No. And when I broke up with him a few months later, partially because of this, he got really angry. He said if I ever told anyone, he'd make sure everyone knew I was lying to protect you. He said no one would believe me anyway because you were already known for having problems." I was gripping the phone so hard my knuckles were white. "Sarah, do you have any proof of this? Any text messages, anything?" "Actually, yeah." "Hold on." I could hear her typing on her computer. "I still have some old text messages from that time. I know it's weird that I kept them, but after you disappeared, I felt so guilty about staying quiet that I couldn't bring myself to delete them. Jake sent me several texts about feeling bad about what happened to you." "Can you send me screenshots?" "Of course." "Madison, I cannot tell you how sorry I am that I didn't speak up. I was 17 and scared, and I thought Jake would eventually do the right thing. I had no idea your parents would completely cut you off like that." 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a series of screenshot images. Text messages from November 2012, just days after I'd been kicked out. Jake: "I feel like shit about Madison." Sarah: "Then tell your parents the truth." Jake: "I can't. It would ruin everything for me. College, football scholarship, everything. Sarah. She's your sister, Jake. Jake. She'll be fine, she's tough, and maybe this will teach her not to be such a know-it-all all the time. Sarah. That's a horrible thing to say. Jake. Look, I'll tell them eventually, when the time is right. But right now, I need to focus on my future. And then, the most damning one. Jake. Besides, she probably deserved this anyway. She's always been jealous of me. I stared at those messages for a long time, feeling a mix of vindication and rage that was almost overwhelming. Here was proof, actual written proof, that everything I'd said for 12 years was true. But there was more. Sarah sent me a screenshot of a Facebook post Jake had made just 3 days after I was kicked out. It was a check-in at a casino about an hour outside Dallas with the caption, "Sometimes you gotta risk it all." The timestamp showed he'd posted it at 2 a.m. on the night our dad discovered the missing money. "Sarah," I called her back immediately. "This casino post, this proves he was gambling that exact night." "I know. I screenshot it back then because I thought it was so insensitive. Your family was falling apart and he was out gambling more money." "Will you be willing to testify to all of this if I need you to?" "Absolutely. Madison, what Jake did to you was evil. And what your parents did, I can't imagine how you survived all that." After I hung up with Sarah, I sat in my penthouse office looking out at the Austin skyline, processing everything. For 12 years, I'd known I was innocent, but having actual proof felt different. It felt like power. The next morning, I got another call from Mom. "Madison, honey, we'd really love to see you. Your Aunt Carmen is having a big family reunion next month. The whole extended family will be there. It would mean so much if you came." A family reunion. How perfect! A chance for them to parade their successful daughter in front of everyone, to rewrite history and make themselves look good. They probably figured I'd be so grateful for their acceptance that I'd just go along with whatever narrative they wanted to spin. "Will Jake be there?" I asked. "Of course. He's so excited to see you. He's been asking about you." I bet he has, especially now that my success is public knowledge and his business is failing. "Okay, Mom, I'll be there." "Oh, wonderful. I'll send you all the details. This is going to be such a healing time for our family." Healing. Right. I spent the next 3 weeks preparing for that reunion like I was preparing for the most important business presentation of my life. I had the screenshots printed and organized. I had Sarah's contact information ready. I even hired a private investigator to dig up more information about Jake's gambling habits and current financial situation. What I found was illuminating. Jake had racked up significant gambling debts in college, leading to academic probation and the loss of his football scholarship, facts my parents had apparently kept hidden from the extended family. His construction business was 3 months behind on rent. His wife had started a GoFundMe for their daughter's medical expenses that had raised less than $2,000. Meanwhile, my company had just signed a contract with a major tech firm worth $1.2 million. The irony was not lost on me. The night before the reunion, I drove to my old neighborhood in Dallas. I parked across the street from the house where I'd grown up and just sat there for a while, remembering that scared 16-year-old girl who'd stood on that porch with her whole world crashing down. Then I walked up to the front door and knocked. Dad answered, and for a moment, neither of us said anything. He looked older, grayer, but his eyes were the same. "Madison." He seemed genuinely surprised to see me. "You're early for the reunion." "I wanted to talk to you and Mom first, privately." They invited me in, and it was surreal being back in that house. Everything looked exactly the same, like they'd preserved it as a shrine to their version of family life. "We're so glad you're here," Mom said, bustling around making coffee like nothing had ever happened. "Wait until you see how excited everyone is to see you at the reunion tomorrow. We've been telling everyone about your success." "Have you told them about why I haven't been at any family events for the past 12 years? Dad shifted uncomfortably. "Madison, that's ancient history. We don't need to dwell on past mistakes." "Whose mistakes, Dad?" "Well, everyone's. We all could have handled things better." There it was again. The refusal to take responsibility, the insistence on shared blame for something they had done entirely to me. I want to hear you say it, I said quietly. I want to hear you admit that you threw your 16-year-old daughter out of the house based on lies and that you were wrong. Madison, Mom interjected, can't we just focus on moving forward? You've done so well for yourself. We're proud of you. You're proud of me now that I'm successful. But where were you when I was sleeping in my car? Where were you when I was working 3 jobs just to afford community college? Where were you when I was building my business from nothing? We thought you needed to learn independence, Dad said weakly. By cutting off my phone and telling the whole family I was a thief? You have to understand, we were protecting Jake's future. Mom started, then stopped abruptly, realizing what she'd just said. Protecting Jake's future? I repeated slowly. That's interesting, Mom. Protecting him from what, exactly? The room went silent. Tomorrow, at the reunion, I'm going to tell everyone the truth about what really happened 12 years ago. I have evidence, text messages, witnesses, proof that Jake was gambling that night. I'm going to show them exactly who lied and who got punished for it. Dad's face went white. Madison, you can't do that. Think about Jake's family, his children. Did you think about me when you threw me away to protect his lies? But that's in the past, Mom pleaded. This would destroy him now. The truth would destroy him, just like his lies destroyed me. I stood up to leave. I'll see you both tomorrow. And Mom, that silver bracelet Grandma gave me for my 16th birthday, the one that got lost when you threw my stuff on the porch, I want it back. We don't have it anymore, she whispered. Then you'd better find it. The next morning, I arrived at Aunt Carmen's house dressed in a sharp business suit that probably cost more than Jake's monthly rent. The reunion was in full swing. Kids running around at the backyard, adults clustered in conversation groups, the smell of barbecue filling the air. Everyone wanted to talk to me. Cousins I hadn't seen in over a decade, aunts and uncles who'd heard about my success, family friends who remembered me as that smart little girl who disappeared. But I noticed how carefully my parents had managed the narrative over the years. People asked vague questions about where I'd been, but it was clear they'd been told some version of, Madison went through a rebellious phase and we had to practice tough love. Jake arrived with his wife and 2 young daughters around noon. He looked nervous when he saw me, but he put on a big smile and walked right over. Madison, my God, look at you! He went in for a hug, and I let him, even though my skin crawled. I can't believe how successful you've become. I always knew you'd do great things. The lie came so easily to him. 12 years of practice, I guess. Did you, Jake? Because I remember you telling Sarah Martinez that I probably deserved what happened to me. His smile faltered for just a second. I don't know what you're talking about. We'll get to that in a minute. After lunch, Aunt Carmen asked me to say a few words to the family about my business success. It was the perfect setup. Everyone gathered around, phones out to record the proud family moment. Thank you all for being here today, I began. It means a lot to be surrounded by family after so many years away. I know some of you have wondered where I've been, why I missed so many important events, why I seemed to just disappear from family life when I was 16. I could see my parents shifting uncomfortably near the back of the group. Today, I want to share the real story with all of you, because 12 years ago, I was accused of stealing $500 from my father. I was called a liar and a thief. I was kicked out of the house at 16 years old with nowhere to go, and I spent more than a decade believing that maybe the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally were right. Maybe I really was broken somehow. The crowd was completely silent now. Even the kids had stopped playing. But last month, I discovered something interesting. I found out that my brother Jake had confessed the truth to his girlfriend at the time, that he had stolen the money, planted it in my backpack, and let me take the blame to protect his college plans. I pulled out the printed screenshots. I have his text messages from that week, admitting his guilt and expressing no remorse for what happened to me. I have proof that he was gambling at a casino the night the money went missing. And I have a witness who is willing to testify to everything Jake told her. Jake had gone completely pale. Madison, this is ridiculous. You can't possibly believe... I also have evidence that Jake's been struggling financially for years, that his business is failing, and that my parents reached out to me only after my company got national media attention. I looked directly at my parents. For 12 years, you let me believe I was the problem. You turned the entire family against me rather than admit that your golden child was a liar and a thief. You destroyed my relationship with everyone in this room to protect him from consequences. The crowd was murmuring now, people looking back and forth between me and my parents with shocked expressions. And now you want to make amends without ever admitting what you did wrong, without ever apologizing for throwing away your own daughter to save your son's reputation. Jake tried one more time. This is all lies. Madison has always been. Has always been what, Jake? A liar? A troublemaker? The same things you convinced our parents I was 12 years ago? I turned back to the crowd. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for truth, because some of you have grandchildren and children, and I want you to understand what happens when you choose favorites, when you refuse to hold your golden child accountable, when you sacrifice one child to protect another. My cousin Maria stepped forward. Madison, is this really true? You were homeless at 16? I slept in my car for 2 months. I worked 3 jobs to pay for community college. I built my business from nothing because I had no family support, no safety net, no one to fall back on when things got hard. But why didn't you reach out to any of us? Uncle Roberto asked. Because Mom and Dad told everyone I was going through a rebellious phase and making up stories for attention. They poisoned the well before I even had a chance to defend myself. I could see people starting to piece together years of strange behavior from my parents, the way they deflected questions about me, the vague explanations for my absence, the way they'd changed the subject whenever someone asked about their daughter. That's when Aunt Carmen did something unexpected. She walked over to an old jewelry box on her mantel and pulled out something small and silver. Madison, honey, your mother gave this to me years ago. She said you'd lost it and asked if I wanted it instead of throwing it away. It was my grandmother's bracelet, the one they'd told me was lost forever. The symbol of everything they'd taken from me, sitting in my aunt's jewelry box for 12 years. I took the bracelet with shaking hands and looked at my mother. You told me this was lost. We thought it was better if you didn't have reminders of that difficult time, she whispered. Difficult time for who, Mom? For me or for you? Jake was backing toward the door now, his wife gathering up their children with confused, embarrassed expressions. This is insane, he muttered. Madison's always been dramatic. But it was too late. The truth was out. The evidence was overwhelming, and 12 years of careful narrative control had crumbled in less than 20 minutes. As I fastened my grandmother's bracelet around my wrist, I felt something I hadn't felt in over a decade. Complete vindication. Not just the satisfaction of being proven right, but the deep healing that comes from having your reality validated by people who matter. I forgive you, I said to my parents, and I meant it. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending this didn't happen. And it doesn't mean I'm going to let you back into my life just because it's convenient for you now. I turned to address the whole family one last time. I learned something important these past 12 years. Family isn't just about blood. It's about people who believe in you when you're telling the truth, who support you when you're struggling, who celebrate your successes without trying to take credit for them. I built a beautiful life without the people who threw me away. I found my own family, friends who became sisters, mentors who became father figures, a community that sees my worth even when I'm not successful enough to make headlines. So thank you for this reunion. It showed me exactly why I never needed your acceptance in the first place. I hugged Aunt Carmen, who was crying and apologizing for not knowing the truth sooner. I hugged several cousins who promised to stay in touch. And then I walked out of that backyard, my grandmother's bracelet catching the afternoon sunlight, feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed with texts for hours afterward. Family members expressing shock and support, people apologizing for believing the wrong story, relatives wanting to reconnect now that they knew the truth. But the most meaningful message came from Sarah. I'm so proud of you for speaking your truth. That took incredible courage. As I drove back to Austin that evening, I thought about that scared 16-year-old girl who'd been thrown away like garbage 12 years ago. She deserved to have her story told. She deserved to be believed. She deserved to know that surviving didn't make her broken, it made her strong. And now, finally, she could rest.